The invitation to my parents' vow renewal arrived on cream cardstock with gold lettering. Richard and Catherine Thompson request your presence as they renew their vows after 40 years of marriage. Riverside Country Club, Saturday, June 22, 4 p.m. Family and closest friends only. I held it in my hands at my apartment, studying the elegant script. Family. The word felt hollow. I was 34 years old and I'd spent 31 of those years knowing I wasn't really family. Not to the Thompsons. I was adopted, a fact they'd never let me forget. My phone rang. Mom's number. Olivia, did you get the invitation? Her voice was bright, excited. Yes, it's beautiful. Isn't it? We're so excited. 40 years of marriage. We wanted to celebrate with the people who matter most. She paused. You'll come, of course. We need even numbers for the seating chart. Even numbers. Not we want you there, or you're important to us. Even numbers. I'll be there, I said. Wonderful. Oh, and Olivia. Dress nicely but not too flashy. This is about me and your father, not about drawing attention to yourself. Of course. And the photographer will be taking family portraits. Just the biological family for those you understand. But you can certainly be in some of the group shots with friends and extended family. The words hit like they always did, a casual reminder that I didn't quite belong. I understand, I said quietly. Good. See you Saturday. She hung up before I could respond. I set down the phone and looked around my modest apartment. One bedroom, simple furniture, nothing fancy. The Thompsons thought I worked as a legal secretary at some downtown firm. They didn't know the truth. The truth was complex. And it was about to become public. 3 weeks ago, I'd received a letter from a law firm I'd never heard of, Wellington and Associates. They requested my presence for a matter of significant importance regarding your biological family. I'd gone to the meeting confused and curious. The senior partner, an elegant woman named Margaret Wellington, had been waiting in a conference room with a judge I later learned was Judge Elizabeth Hartford, executor of estates for the Superior Court. Miss Thompson, Margaret had said, I'm here to inform you about your biological mother. I'd frozen. My biological mother? Evelyn Catherine Wellington. She passed away 2 months ago at the age of 78. The name meant nothing to me. The Thompsons had never told me anything about my birth parents except that I'd been given up because they couldn't care for me. Margaret had opened a file. Your mother was one of the wealthiest women in the state. The Wellington family built their fortune in shipping, real estate, and investments over 4 generations. Evelyn was the last of the direct line. Why are you telling me this? Because Miss Thompson, you are her sole heir. Your mother never married, never had other children. She gave you up for adoption when she was 23, a decision that haunted her for the rest of her life. But she followed your life from a distance. And she left everything to you. Judge Hartford had stepped forward then. Miss Thompson, I'm the executor of the Wellington estate. Your inheritance includes $4.2 billion in liquid assets, property holdings across 6 states, the Wellington family home and controlling interest in Wellington Industries. The number was so large it didn't compute. Billion. Yes. Your biological mother was extraordinarily wealthy. And she wanted you to have it all. I'd spent the next 3 weeks in meetings with lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors, learning about an inheritance I'd never imagined. The Wellington fortune was vast. Investments, real estate, a shipping company, commercial properties, and most surprisingly, a portfolio of luxury venues including hotels, resorts, and country clubs. Country clubs like Riverside Country Club, where my adoptive parents were renewing their vows. I'd discovered that little detail in a property list. The Thompsons had been members at Riverside for 25 years. Never knowing that as of 2 months ago, their adopted daughter owned it. The irony was almost too perfect. Saturday arrived. I dressed in a simple navy dress, elegant but understated, exactly what Mom had requested. I drove to Riverside Country Club in my practical Honda, parking among the Mercedes and BMWs. The club was stunning, set on manicured grounds overlooking a lake. White tents had been erected on the lawn for the reception. The ceremony would take place in the main ballroom with photos on the terrace. I walked in through the main entrance. The club manager, Thomas Reed, spotted me immediately. He'd been briefed 2 weeks ago about the ownership change and his eyes widened when he saw me. Miss Thompson, he said quietly, approaching. Welcome. If you need anything at all. Thank you, Thomas. I'm fine. Just here as a guest today. Understood. Though, ma'am, if I may say, the irony of this situation isn't lost on me. I'm aware. Judge Hartford had agreed to attend today, officially to deliver the final estate papers that needed my signature. Unofficially, because when I told her about my adoptive parents' vow renewal and the family photo situation, she'd gotten a look in her eye. Miss Thompson, she'd said, I think those papers should be delivered in person. At the venue. During your parents' celebration. That seems dramatic. Your biological mother spent 55 years regretting that she gave you up. He built an empire and had no one to share it with. She followed your life from afar and watched as your adoptive family treated you as less than. She left you everything specifically so you'd never feel powerless again. I think she'd appreciate a dramatic delivery. I'd agreed. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m., photos at 5 p.m., reception at 6 p.m. Judge Hartford would arrive at 5:15 p.m., right in the middle of the family photo session. Guests were arriving. Family, friends, business associates, my parents' social circle. My brother David was already there with his wife Amanda and their 2 children. My sister Michelle had flown in from California with her husband. I was the only one alone. The adopted daughter, perpetually single, perpetually on the margins. Olivia. David spotted me and walked over. You made it. Great. Listen, Mom wants you in the back rows for the ceremony. She's saving the front rows for actual family. Actual family. The casual cruelty was so normalized he didn't even realize what he'd said. Of course, I replied. The ceremony began at 4 p.m. sharp. I sat in the back row and watched as my parents renewed their vows, surrounded by their biological children, grandchildren, and closest friends. It was beautiful, genuinely moving to see 2 people recommit after 40 years. But I felt like a spectator, not a participant. After the ceremony, everyone moved to the terrace for photos. The photographer had set up a beautiful backdrop with the lake and gardens visible behind. Mom waved everyone over. Family photos first. David, Michelle, come here. Amanda, bring the children. This is our family portrait. She was radiant in her cream-colored dress, Dad handsome in his tuxedo. David and Michelle flanked them with Amanda and the grandchildren filling in. I stood to the side waiting to be included. The photographer started arranging people. Beautiful family, he said. Let's get a few different poses. They took photos. Various combinations of parents, children, grandchildren. I remained at the edge, waiting. Finally, Mom noticed me standing there. Olivia, you can step back now, she said pleasantly. These are just for family. The words hung in the air. Just family in the photos, she continued as if explaining something obvious. You understand, you're adopted. Not really family. These portraits are for our bloodline, our biological legacy. I felt the familiar sting, but this time it was public. 30 guests were watching. The photographer looked uncomfortable. David shifted awkwardly. But no one contradicted her. I understand, I said quietly, stepping back. Thank you for being reasonable, Mom said, turning back to the camera. Now let's get some beautiful shots. I moved away from the terrace, finding a quiet corner near the entrance. I checked my phone. A text from Judge Hartford, arriving in 10 minutes. Are you ready? I texted back, ready. I watched my family pose for photos. Smiling, laughing, celebrating 40 years of marriage and family. A family I'd never really been part of. Michelle joined me after a few minutes, looking uncomfortable. Olivia, I'm sorry about that. Mom can be insensitive. She's being honest, I said. I'm not blood. I've always known that. Still, it's hurtful. It is what it is. Michelle squeezed my arm and returned to the photo session. I stayed in my corner, invisible and forgotten. That's when I saw the car pull up, a black sedan with government plates. Judge Hartford emerged, wearing her judicial robes and carrying a leather briefcase. She walked through the entrance with purpose, and Thomas, the club manager, immediately approached to escort her. Where's the ceremony? She asked loudly enough to carry. The vow renewal is on the terrace, Your Honor, Thomas said. But if you're looking for Ms. Thompson. I am. This is an official estate matter. They walked toward the terrace where the photo session was in full swing. Guests noticed the judge immediately, You couldn't miss someone in judicial robes at a garden party. The photographer paused mid-shot. Excuse me, ma'am, we're in the middle of family photos. This will only take a moment, Judge Hartford said firmly. She scanned the crowd and spotted me. Miss Thompson? Olivia Thompson. Everyone turned to look at me. Yes, Your Honor? I stepped forward. I'm Judge Elizabeth Hartford from the Superior Court. I apologize for interrupting this celebration, but I have urgent estate papers that require your immediate signature. She walked directly to me, her robes swishing, her briefcase authoritative and official. Mom's smile had frozen. Estate papers? What estate? Judge Hartford set her briefcase on a nearby table and opened it. She pulled out a thick folder and addressed me but spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Ms. Thompson, I have the final documentation regarding your biological mother's estate. Evelyn Catherine Wellington passed away 2 months ago, and as her sole heir, you've inherited her complete fortune. The terrace had gone silent. Judge Hartford pulled out the first document. The estate has been appraised and probated. The total value of your inheritance is $4.2 billion. Someone gasped. Mom's face went white. $4.2 billion, Judge Hartford repeated clearly. Including liquid assets of approximately $1.8 billion, property holdings valued at $1.4 billion, controlling interest in Wellington Industries worth $900 million, and various other assets including luxury real estate, commercial properties and investment portfolios. She spread several documents on the table. I could see official seals, legal headers, property deeds. Your biological mother was one of the wealthiest women in the country, Judge Hartford continued. She gave you up for adoption when she was 23, a decision she regretted deeply. She never married, never had other children. She spent 55 years building this fortune with the hope that someday, you'd have it. David made a strangled sound. Judge Hartford pulled out another document. The property holdings include the Wellington Estate in Newport, a penthouse in Manhattan, vacation homes in Aspen and Palm Beach, and a portfolio of commercial properties. She looked directly at my parents, including this country club. Mom swayed. Dad grabbed her arm to steady her. Riverside Country Club, Judge Hartford said, consulting her papers, was acquired by the Wellington Trust in 1998 as part of a larger portfolio of luxury venues. As of 2 months ago, when the estate settled, ownership transferred to Olivia Thompson. She looked around the terrace at the manicured gardens, the elegant ballroom visible through French doors. Ms. Thompson now owns this entire property. The building, the grounds, the golf course, all facilities. Everything you see. The photographer had stopped taking photos. Every guest stood frozen. Thomas, the club manager, stepped forward. If I may confirm, Ms. Thompson is indeed the new owner of Riverside Country Club. I met with her and the estate attorneys 2 weeks ago to review all operational matters. Judge Hartford nodded. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Ms. Thompson has been very gracious about maintaining current memberships and staff during the transition. He turned back to me. I need your signature on these final transfer documents. Once signed, all assets officially transfer to your control. She handed me a pen and pointed to signature lines. I signed 4 documents while 30 people watched in absolute silence. Congratulations, Ms. Thompson, Judge Hartford said warmly. Your biological mother would be very proud. She specifically stated in her will that she hoped this inheritance would give you the security and respect you deserved. She closed her briefcase and turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I understand you're celebrating your vow renewal today. How wonderful. Though I should mention, your membership at this club will now be subject to review by the new owner. Mom found her voice. Olivia, is this real? Yes, I said simply. You inherited $4.2 billion? Yes. And you own this country club? Yes. Along with 4 other country clubs, 2 luxury hotels, 3 resorts and various commercial properties across 6 states. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Your biological mother. The Wellington fortune. That was Evelyn Wellington? Yes. We knew the Wellingtons, he said faintly. We've done business with Wellington Industries for years. We never knew, we never connected. Why would you? I said calmly. You never asked about my biological parents. You made it clear my adoption was something to be grateful for, not something to explore. Michelle spoke up, her voice shaking. Olivia, you're a billionaire? As of 2 months ago, yes. David was doing mental math. $4 billion. Olivia, that makes you one of the richest people in the state. Approximately the 17th wealthiest according to the estate lawyers, I confirmed. Judge Hartford smiled. Miss Thompson has been remarkably composed about this entire situation. Most people would be overwhelmed. But she's handled the transition with grace and wisdom. She looked at my parents again. Your daughter is quite remarkable. You must be very proud. The silence was pointed. Mom finally moved, stepping toward me. Olivia, sweetheart, this is wonderful news. We had no idea. That I was worth anything? I interrupted quietly. No, you didn't. Because you never looked. You never asked. You never considered that the adopted daughter you excluded from family photos might have her own family, her own history, her own worth. That's not fair, Dad protested. Isn't it? You just told me I'm not really family. That these photos are for your bloodline, your biological legacy. You made it clear publicly that I don't belong. I gestured to the terrace, the club, the grounds. And now you're celebrating your vow renewal in a venue I own. You're members of a club where I'm the owner. The irony isn't lost on me. Michelle was crying. Olivia, we're sorry. We never meant. Yes, you did, I said gently. You meant exactly what you said. I'm adopted. I'm not biological family. I don't carry the Thompson name in my DNA. And you've reminded me of that my entire life. I looked at the photographer who stood frozen with his camera. You wanted family photos, I said to my parents. Photos of your bloodline. Your biological legacy. Please continue. I wouldn't want to interfere. Olivia, Mom started. I'm going to speak with Thomas about club operations, I interrupted. Judge Hartford, thank you for delivering these papers in person. I appreciate your attention to this matter. My pleasure, Miss Thompson. And again, congratulations. Your mother would be very proud. As I walked away with Judge Hartford and Thomas, I heard the whispers behind me. Shock, disbelief, people frantically Googling Evelyn Wellington and Wellington Fortune on their phones. In Thomas's office, away from the crowd, Judge Hartford pulled out one more document. Your biological mother left you a letter, she said. I've been holding it for the right moment. I think this is that moment. She handed me an envelope, yellowed with age. The handwriting on the front said simply, to my daughter Olivia. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Olivia. Asterisk, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope you'll forgive me for watching your life from a distance rather than being part of it. I gave you up when I was 23, too young, too scared, too focused on the family business to believe I could be a good mother. Asterisk. It was the worst mistake of my life. Asterisk, I followed your progress through private investigators and occasional glimpses. I saw you grow up with the Thompsons. I saw them treat you as less than their biological children. I saw you struggle for acceptance in a family that never fully accepted you. Asterisk. Asterisk, I couldn't intervene. The adoption was closed. You had a family even if they didn't appreciate you. But I could build you a fortune. I could ensure that when I died, you'd have the financial security and power I'd spent my life accumulating. Asterisk. Asterisk, you are my daughter. My only child. My biological legacy, even if I couldn't be your mother in life. This fortune is yours, not because you're a Wellington by upbringing, but because you're a Wellington by blood. Asterisk. Asterisk, use it wisely. Use it to build the life you deserve. And know that every dollar represents my love for you even if I was too cowardly to express it in person. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm sorry I couldn't be braver. I'm sorry I gave you up. But I'm proud of the woman you've become even from a distance. Asterisk. Asterisk, with all my love. Your mother, Evelyn. Asterisk. I was crying by the end. Judge Hartford handed me a tissue. She watched you, the judge said quietly. For 34 years. She knew about the Thompsons' treatment. She knew they treated you as less than. She built this fortune specifically to give you power they could never diminish. She gave me up and then spent 55 years regretting it? Yes. And channeling that regret into building you the largest inheritance she could manage. Evelyn Wellington was a formidable businesswoman. She grew the family fortune from $500 million to over $4 billion. And she left every penny to you. Thomas spoke up gently. Miss Thompson, what would you like to do about today's event? I can certainly ask your parents to leave if you prefer. I thought about it. The easy revenge would be to cancel their vow renewal, kick them out of their own celebration, show them the power I now held. But that wasn't who I was. Let them finish their celebration, I said. Let them have their vow renewal, their photos, their reception. But Thomas, I want the membership committee to review the Thompson family membership next month. Consider it done. And moving forward, I want to be actively involved in club operations. This isn't just an investment. This is my property. I want to understand how it runs. I'd be honored to work with you, Miss Thompson. Judge Hartford smiled. Your mother would approve. She wasn't about petty revenge. She was about building real power. We walked back toward the reception. The party was continuing, though every conversation seemed to be about the revelation. Guests kept glancing at me, whispering, pulling out their phones. Mom and Dad found me as soon as I returned. Olivia, we need to talk, Mom said, her voice urgent. Do we? Please. Let us explain. Explain what? I asked calmly. That you excluded me from family photos because I'm adopted? You already explained that quite clearly. That you never considered me real family? Message received. That you treated me as less than your biological children for 34 years? I've always known. Dad stepped forward. We didn't know about your inheritance. We didn't know you were a Wellington. Would it have mattered? Should it matter? The fact that I'm worth billions makes me worthy of family photos, but being adopted made me unworthy. They didn't have an answer. Michelle approached tentatively. Olivia, I'm ashamed of how we've treated you. All of us. We took you for granted. We made you feel less than. And that was wrong regardless of your inheritance. Thank you for saying that. Can we start over? Can we try to be a real family? I looked at my sister. My adopted sister, the one who'd at least tried to be kind over the years. Maybe, I said. But Michelle, it can't be because I'm rich now. It can't be because I own the country club or control a fortune. It has to be because you genuinely see me as family. Adopted or not. Wealthy or not. Just me. I do see you that way, she said, crying. I'm sorry I didn't say it before. I'm sorry I let Mom and Dad treat you as less than. I'm sorry I participated in it. David joined us. Olivia, I've been an ass. For years. I treated you like the outsider because that's how Mom and Dad positioned you. But that was wrong. You're my sister. Adopted doesn't make you less of a sister. Thank you, I said quietly. The reception continued, but it had transformed. Instead of celebrating my parents' vow renewal, everyone was talking about my inheritance, the Wellington fortune, the fact that the adopted Thompson daughter owned the venue. Around 8 p.m. as the party wound down, Mom pulled me aside. Olivia, your biological mother. Evelyn Wellington. I remember her. She was at several charity events we attended. A brilliant woman. Formidable. She built the Wellington Empire into something extraordinary. I know. She was your mother. Yes. Though I never got to know her. Mom's voice broke. I should have told you more about your adoption. I should have encouraged you to explore your biological family. I should have made you feel like you could have both, us and them. Why didn't you? Because I was insecure, she admitted. I was afraid that if you knew your biological mother was wealthy and powerful, you'd reject us. You'd want her instead of us. So I made sure you never looked, never asked, never wondered. By making me feel like adoption was something to be grateful for, not curious about. Yes. And that was selfish of me. I wanted you to be loyal to us even if we never fully accepted you. I looked at this woman who'd raised me, flaws and all. Mom, I don't need your acceptance anymore, I said gently. I have my biological mother's acceptance, even in death. I have a fortune she built for me. I have property, power, and resources you can't imagine. I don't need you to validate me. I know. But I'd still like a relationship with you. You can treat me as actual family. Not as the adopted daughter you tolerate. Not as the convenient even number for the seating chart. As your daughter, equal to David and Michelle. Mom was crying openly now. Can you forgive me? Eventually. But Mom, this changes everything. I own this club. I own properties across the country. I control a billion-dollar corporation. You can't treat me as less than anymore. Not just because it's wrong, but because I have the power to remove you from spaces you've always taken for granted. I understand. Good. Judge Hartford found me as I was preparing to leave. Miss Thompson, how do you feel? Overwhelmed. Validated. Powerful. Sad for the mother I never knew. Angry at the family that never saw me. It's complicated. That's honest. And healthy. She handed me a business card. This is my direct line. If you need anything as you navigate this inheritance, advice, support, or just someone to talk to, call me. Thank you. For everything. For delivering the papers in person. For making sure they saw. Your biological mother specifically stated she wanted you to have power they couldn't diminish. I think we accomplished that today. I drove home that night in my practical Honda, but everything had changed. I wasn't the adopted daughter on the margins anymore. I was Olivia Wellington Thompson, heir to a $4.2 billion fortune, owner of Riverside Country Club and a dozen other properties, controller of Wellington Industries. The next morning I woke to 17 voicemails from family members. Apologies, requests to talk, invitations to lunch. Even distant cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to reconnect. I deleted them all. Then I called Thomas at the country club. I want to review the membership list, I said. Every member. Their standing, their treatment of staff, their behavior. And I want to make changes. Understood, Ms. Thompson. And Thomas? The Thompson family membership? I want it reviewed thoroughly. Of course. I also called Wellington Industries and scheduled meetings with the board of directors. If I was going to control a major corporation, I needed to understand it. 3 weeks later, I sat in my biological mother's office at Wellington headquarters. Now my office. The view overlooked the city, the same view Evelyn had looked at for decades. On my desk was a letter I'd written to my adoptive parents. Mom and Dad. I've spent 3 weeks thinking about our relationship and what comes next. I've decided that I want a relationship with you, but on different terms. I'm no longer the adopted daughter who needs your acceptance. I'm a Wellington, a member of one of the wealthiest families in the country. I control assets you couldn't imagine. I have power and resources that make your approval irrelevant. But I'd still like to have you in my life. On one condition. You treat me as equal to David and Michelle. You include me in family events not as an afterthought but as a full member. You stop referencing my adoption as something that makes me less than. If you can do that, we can rebuild our relationship. If you can't, I'll walk away without regret. I have my biological mother's love, even in death. I have her fortune. I don't need anything from you. The choice is yours. Olivia. I sealed the letter and sent it. 2 days later, Mom called. We accept your terms, she said quietly. All of them. We want to be in your life, Olivia. Really in your life. As your family. Then we'll try, I said. But Mom, one more thing. Anything. Next family photo session? I'm in the center. Front row. Not because I'm wealthy. Because I'm family. Real family. There was a long pause. Then, yes. Your family. Real family. I'm sorry it took me 40 years to truly see that. And slowly, carefully we began to rebuild. But I never forgot the lesson. I didn't need their acceptance to be worthy. I was a Wellington. And Wellingtons were extraordinary, with or without family photos.